I'm asked to give you sort of an hour, not more than an hour and 15 minutes. And I think you have the file. I will be skipping a number of slides, of course, in the interest of time, but I would like to facilitate conversation and dialogue among yourselves. I know that many of you are working on ASEAN-related issues, and this one is certainly at the heart of our conversation. There are 7 points. We need to identify from the beginning, before we jump into why we have this mechanism called the AICHR. We need to understand together what we mean by human rights. And then the community itself, why it is, what it is for, how it develops. Different situations in ASEAN community and its own human rights, and the AICHR. And I'd like to talk on the 6th point about the standards and instruments. And last but not least, is what I consider is the biggest challenge of ASEAN and its member states at the moment, which is how we can integrate coherently the sustainable development goals. Let's start. When we talk about human rights, and I think you have been studying this for some time, it evolved from basically whatever you, the takeaway message of this first point is it is about human dignity, which is always evolving and dynamic. When, you know, the 5 principles, and this is from AICHR, universality, we are human beings wherever we are, irrespective of the country, irrespective of citizenship, irrespective of your religion, belief, sexual orientation. All the rights are inalienable, interrelated, interdependent, indivisible. Typical. States have 3 duties. Duty to respect, to protect, and to fulfill. Of course, I would like to stress the protect one, meaning that states cannot violate your rights, nor it can allow to be seen as allowing players, companies, to violate your rights. So measures to protect your rights must be there. And fulfill is simply, we are talking more about the social and economic rights, to put in place institutions necessary for the protection of your rights. Courts, police, schools, etc., etc. Okay? The beginning of our conversation starts with this incident back in 1943 to 1945, when a man debated with the world, and one of his arguments against doing it is that it is his sovereignty. It is his absolute right to do whatever he pleases in his own territory. So the concept evolved from the freedom to do, the license to kill freely within your territory. Sovereignty was meant to be, in his view, and I'm talking about Hitler. Hitler said to everyone that you can't mess with what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is within Germany and in German-occupied territory, borders at that time. This is from Krakow, a city where the camp is situated. And of course, on the right, there are some survivors. One of them is a Nobel laureate who just passed away a couple of years ago. And that's in at the end of that war, together with that war, we also see two incidents. One, if I ask you why you think Hitler did what he did, what would be your answer? Why he killed so many people, especially the Jews? But in fact, he didn't start killing the Jews. He started killing, people with disabilities, those with polio, who he thought was useless eaters. This is the term he used. And then he started the so-called final solution to embark upon that program to herd everyone that he disliked, particularly the Jews, into the so-called labor camp in Auschwitz and many other camps that were erected in many places in Europe. Then this happened. Where is this? Where is this? It's in Japan. For the first time, apart from what we heard, what we read in Ramayana, for the first time we saw with our own eyes the severity, the intensity of these weapons to kill people. This large number of people can be killed instantly. Because if you read the novel, if you read the story, in Ramayana, this only can happen in Ramayana, but no longer. In 1945, it was witnessed around the world that there exists this kind of weapons. Wipe out instantly 100,000 people in Nagasaki and in Hiroshima. So for the first time as well, we saw that there was this weapons of mass destruction, the nuclear weapons. So what happened next was that we evolved to say that we adhere to same principles. Sovereignty is not a license to do whatever you please within your territory. It is a responsibility. It is a responsibility. So, and it is an ongoing debate as well, whether, it's not fit for this slide. But I just want to mention also the responsibility to protect. That's an ongoing debate. But human rights are there to protect everyone, irrespective of whether he or she belongs to a particular country. And we have this for more than 70 years now, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the mother of all human rights standards in the world today. It merits some reading, only 30 articles. You should read it from time to time to remind ourselves where we stand. The principle is we don't want this to happen again. We don't want killing on large scale to happen. We don't want weapons of mass destruction to be used so too freely. So we create mechanisms. We have, the League of Nations, and then we have the United Nations. But of course, what we see is that again and again, violence occurs on large scale. In your own country, you still are grappling with this fact. I think Rafendi has been doing a lot of work on this throughout his career. In Cambodia, if I just pause to ask you, what is the difference between what Hitler did and what happened in Cambodia? Can you give it a thought? Hitler didn't think of the Jew as belonging to the German state, the Aryan, race. So he killed freely those who didn't belong. But what about in Cambodia? Why the Khmer Rouge would kill rather freely the Cambodians themselves, looking no different from them. How can you, from one time to another, kill so freely? In your own country, at one point in time, you could kill so freely if you attach the term communist to someone. So you could kill that person so freely. But in Cambodia, there was not such a word as communism. It's the drive toward the agrarian state that the Khmer Rouge would like to see. So everyone who, although identical in race, identical in nationality, identical citizenship, irrespective of that, they would still be killing you if you don't agree with their mantra, if you don't agree with their ideology. The suspect, the first suspect, of course, when Hitler did what he did, he had to classify who are the Jews, right? So he actually passed a legislation to classify a human being as a Jew, to say that if either one of your three generations before you, if either any of the three generations before you, your grandfather, your father, and your great-grandfather, if either of these is a Jew, you are a Jew. What about this one? How could you identify that this person is likely to disagree with you, so you have to kill them? How could you do that? The intellectuals were the main culprit. The intellectuals are likely to object us, right? Who are the intellectuals? Those who wear glasses.
No.
ourselves, if you go to Dawn's Lake, how, the cruelty subjected to their own citizens. More than 1/4 of population were wiped out. Worldwide, or 1/4, by the way, 1/4. Huge number. And that tree is special because it's called a killing tree for good reason. It's where children were killed. And how were children killed? They were held up by their ankle, and their head was smashed into the tree. So, huge violence. And that's in ASEAN. And ASEAN was there at that time, although Cambodia was not part of ASEAN. Later in that century, we are now, 2019, the 21st century, the third millennium. We had the Universal Declaration for a while, and we thought that never again that level of violence should happen. Still, it happens again and again. In Rwanda, the Hutu and the Tutsi killed each other. You could not differentiate them from looking at them. One tribe, one group cultivate land, the other group, herding cattle. It's for no reason that they started to kill each other. And when the Belgian peacekeepers left prematurely, like what's happening now in Syria, they started killing each other. And their weapons were so primitive because they were poor. They didn't have guns and whatnot. They only have the machete, big knife. So they kill each other with big knives. And I heard a story from the first-hand witness because he was conducting research. And he met a survivor, a woman. She passed out. She was hurt, of course. They thought that she was dead. So they left her lying on the floor. And in her, before she completely passed out, she heard thumping noise, like this. And then she was brought to a point, darkened on the wall like this, that it was white before. That was where her daughter was killed in the same manner that the Khmer Rouge killed children, grabbed by the ankle, smashed the head with the wall, because they didn't have the weapon. So it still happened. And that's 20th century, right? 21st century, what's happening? Before we go into the detail, this is the human rights issue. Remember, dignity of human person evolved over time. If you read the UDHR, you will not see issues like the right to development. You will not see the right to environment. It did not happen. It was not recognized then. What was recognized since then is the dignity of person, is the inalienability of the rights of person. They were there all the time, but issues specific were not there because the time and time issue did not match. So we see new issues evolving. For the 21st century, this is what AICHR lists by the alphabet. Okay? I'll go quickly because some issues like HIV/AIDS were only recognized in 1980s, and we are still grappling with the issue and ramification. Some of that Millennium Development Goals already passed and morphed into Sustainable Development Goals. Sexual orientation and gender identity, we do have that. And if you see, there are so many issues concerning human rights. The death penalty, detention, disappearances, discrimination, disability and human rights. And the other day, I'm going to talk in detail, but Michelle Bachelet brought to our attention that the most important human rights issue in her view right now is climate change. So it's also there. 21st century, after those events, large scale, you still see that if you recall before the turn of the century, the so-called Arab Spring. Do you remember Arab Spring? What was it about? Arab Spring was about the desire of the people to choose their own leaders, and it spiraled into a phenomenon called Arab Spring, from Tunisia all the way to Libya and Syria. In Syria, of course, we see a leader, family of leaders, not inclining to give the will of the people concrete. So fighting continues up to this day. But what I want to highlight is that when there is a war, the first group of people who felt the impact were children and women, because they fled to the borders. By the way, if you go to doctors, you have the before and after. You know, before it should be you're sick, and after you should be looking beautiful. This, the result of war, is ugly. So that's Umayyad, 13th century mosque, a World Heritage, and it has a bazaar underneath, surrounding it. You see the minaret over there. Now the minaret is gone. Now the whole building is gone. The whole building is gone in Umayyad. Not to mention Palmyra, which is dating from the Roman period. All gone. So we still witness large-scale violence. What about us now for ASEAN? We were born in 1967, you know, and we have Ambassador Kong Keng-Yok here who could relate to us in more detail. But what I like to highlight is that, number one, ASEAN is not a human rights institution. It is not formed, it is not established for human rights purposes. We must be clear on that. If you look at the Charter, there are many things that are foundational for ASEAN. Human rights are just one of them. Unlike other organizations, which made it clear from start that Council of Europe, for example. So you must make comparison why we are here. I will not go into detail, but I just want to impress upon you the importance of understanding full well why we are here for more than 50 years now. This is 52nd. Yeah? We are not formulated, we are not established for human rights purposes, but for common security issue back then. In 1990, we evolved into economic community by the name of AFTA, ASEAN Free Trade Area. And now we are fully fledged community, meaning that we are formed on 3 pillars: political, economic, social, and cultural. But human rights are just part and parcel, but not the entire scope. But human rights are very important to ASEAN because not only are human rights a principle, a foundational principle of ASEAN. Apart from human rights, what are others? If you read the Charter, Article 2, Principal Objectives, you will see featured prominently on the list are rule of law, democracy. But you also have other clauses to say that we have the non-interference, we have other, qualifying principle. So it is important to bear in mind that human rights are important, but ASEAN was not established for human rights. They are, however, our human rights are important, however, as the legitimating factor. Because if we grow, and this region, as a result of our integration, that it creates a number of human rights issues which must be tackled at the regional level. This is why we need to cooperate at the regional level, and this is why ASEAN is so important for human rights. So you can ask further, but I leave you with this thought that we are not here for human rights, but human rights are important to us as a matter of principle, as a matter of a factor which legitimizes the existence of this community. And we are expanding. You know that we have been 10 since 1999. The last country that joined us was which one? Cambodia joined us in 1999, the last year of the millennium. So we have been 10 since then. Now we are likely to see other countries to join. I think Ambassador Keng-Yok must be very familiar with the fact that some countries call upon him and his successors that they would like to join. Countries like Mongolia, countries like Turkey. But of course, Article 6, if I recall correctly, say that admission of new members must be based on the following criteria. One of them is location in a recognized geographical location region of Southeast Asia. So Mongolia and Turkey, we received your intention, but we cannot admit you until and unless we amend the charter first. Sorry about that. Thank you for your interest, but goodbye. So we are likely to see countries like Timor-Leste, which has a population of 1.1 million at the moment, joining us. So we are expanding. Structurally, I won't go into detail, but I just want to point out that we are based on 3 pillars. Some issues cross-cut these 3 pillars. Compartmentalization or siloing of ASEAN helps us to be very focused in what we do. Yeah? It helps in many ways. Along the line that you see your own ministry focusing on particular portfolio and mandate. And that really helps in terms of public governance. In another way, it creates a new set of issues to handle the cross-cut issues like human rights. So, if I ask you, because I have been doing this for many years, where if a person with disability come to this room, join us, and he or she asks you, which community, which pillar do I belong? Which one you would tell him or her? Political community, economic community, or social and cultural community? Which one? It's not a trick question. We see half and half. This first half, too knowledgeable, the expert, saying all 3. The back, some still say socio-cultural, and that is the problem. How can we tell that we belong to all? What are the mechanisms that can put the people to all the 3 pillars of ASEAN? Not just, if they are a person with disability, the elderly, women and children, they must belong to the ASEAN socio-cultural community. That is a fundamental issue for human rights. How can we integrate human rights concern to political pillar and to the economic pillar equally? Because we belong to the community. They are just based on 3 pillars. So, and of course, classification or division of sectoral body can be based on subjectivity, meaning I like you to be here. Sometimes it's difficult to, for example, science and technology can equally belong to socio-cultural or AEC. Tourism can also belong to either of these. And at the moment, these 2 belong to the AEC. Transport is another thing. If you want to person with disabilities to get employment, but you don't provide him or her with good transport, how can you help realize the goal of inclusive employment? So you need to get on board people from the AEC pillar who works in transport. Okay? So it helps us being focused, this division, but in another way, it creates a problem that you in your member state know full well. And how do we tackle these issues at the member state level? Normally, there are a few ways. Yeah? In Thailand, it's so typical that we create inter-ministerial committee. So typical, and I think this is not only default method in Thailand, in other member states as well. In some other countries, you create a sort of common document to say that this is our policy to integrate certain policies across many sectoral bodies. And we have been doing that. I'll skip this, and I just say that we are also represented by color. When we talk about Thai being divided along the red and the yellow shirt, ASEAN is highly divisive in terms of color. We assign red to the ASCC, yellow to the AEC, and blue to the APSC as well. And you can see from the Vision 2025 that these are the aspirations of each of the 3 pillars. What about human rights situations? This has been laid down that a nation, a sovereign state, cannot claim sovereignty to do whatever it pleases in its own territory, right? Now, this is a trouble. This is a problem. It won't be solved today or tomorrow, but it requires ASEAN as a whole. Is this an ASEAN issue or a Myanmar issue? Back in 1945, you would have classified this as strictly belonging to Myanmar. But why is this a regional issue? This is the more pertinent question. Why is this a regional issue? Personally, I have responded from 2 grounds. Number one is that in terms of principle, insofar as it relates to human rights well-being of any particular citizens belonging to ASEAN community, ASEAN needs to act. This is a matter of principle. Second, in terms of consequence and implications, it is disrupting the legitimacy, the well-being, the existence of the entire community. If we allow this to prolong, and this is to prolong, it is jeopardizing our credibility. But ASEAN is grappling with this issue. But it is being felt outside of ASEAN. You know that the first batch of the board people from Rakhine started to come to Thailand before 2012. 2012 was the first year that the influx of these people came ashore. They didn't want to disembark in Thailand, but of course when they entered the territory, the Thai waters, they were forced to disembark, and there come a number of problems, not least human trafficking by the officers and by the traffickers themselves. But then in 2017, it became full-blown. Between 2012 and 2017, efforts were being made to address this issue. Of course, countries in question try to classify the issue as a national issue, not a regional issue. And ASEAN has to abide by the so-called non-interference, and I'd like to devote some discussion on that later on. But this is the number one issue. I won't provide you with the laundry list of issues, but the next page will illustrate the significance, the intensity, the variety of human rights issues in ASEAN. Top of the left is the massive exodus of migrant workers fleeing Thailand back in it's 5 years ago. My math is being poor now. 2014. Back in 2014, when the junta took over Thailand, a few months after May, probably in June or July, they said they would ask for verification of every migrant worker in Thailand. So the Cambodian workers went back home. They went back home because many of them were undocumented. Many of them were undocumented and at risk of being apprehended, arrested. So they fled. What's the impact? The construction industry of Thailand collapsed overnight because no one was working for them, with them, especially in the lower northeastern part of Thailand. It simply collapsed because no worker was there to carry on the work. 2 days after the policy was announced, a reversal happened. They said, "Oh, don't worry, come back. We will think through." The junta said, "Come back." So they came back. Okay. At the middle of the page, the yellow background, it's in Thai. The message is in Thai. It's asked 1 year for Somba, 10 years for Somchai. This is already outdated. Somchai is a famous lawyer, disappeared, forcibly disappeared. he hasn't been found for 13 years now. Sobat is a renowned Laotian human rights advocate, also disappeared. If someone can be disappeared that easily in your country, and many are, what about you? How can you say we have a rule of law when someone that famous, more famous than I am, can be disappeared? What about myself? What about you? Think about that. Do think about that. So what is ASEAN for, if not for the rule of law? And if we proclaim that we have a rule of law, how can our citizens be disappeared that easily from this home? Lower left is what's happening sort of now. The haze that happens in Sumatra reached not only Singapore. You know Koh Samui in Thailand? Further north, much further north. At one point in time, it covered the entire island of Samui. Little was reported. Hat Yai, which is north of Malaysia. Of course, when I say Hat Yai was affected, it means that Singapore and Malaysia were already affected. Because it reached Hat Yai, and then it reached Samui. Territory and sovereignty cannot contain the haze. The haze goes wherever the wind takes it, right? No president, no prime minister can order the haze to remain in your own country. It goes wherever it pleases, wherever the wind takes it, there on the page. Yeah? So how can we address this issue? This is, if not a human rights issue, I don't know how to classify this issue. It's not just an environmental issue. It affects our well-being. And that at the end of the column on the right, what is that? It shows the map of continental ASEAN comprising Thailand, Lower China, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. It illustrates, meandering through is the Mekong River. It shows where the dams have been built, will be built. Think about this. If you have a river traversing along many countries, and each country is saying, I have sovereignty to dam the river. I don't care about countries down the river because I have the sovereignty. And this is gaining more and more traction because each country is claiming sovereignty to say that, oh, by the way, we have the right to do this. So dams are being built, hydropower dams are being built along the Mekong River. This is problematic because unless we find a common solution, the conflict over resources will be more severe in the future. It's getting more severe now. One way out is not ASEAN, but the Mekong River Committee is finding the way to agreeing on the methodology of when a country is constructing a dam or a project that would affect another country. Some methodology must be there to mitigate or to ascertain the impact. So it's not a laundry list. The list can go on and on. But the biggest issue of all is this one. We are an individual. So it is sometimes difficult for us to feel the impact personally of climate change. Because we feel the impact of climate change differently. When you are in Sumatra, you may feel it more than in Jakarta or than in Chiang Mai or North Thailand. But it is affecting us, inevitably affecting us. And the Amnesty International is quantifying the numbers. But I think that this number is just the tip of the iceberg. Because Michelle Bachelet announced the other day that unless we come together, this is killing us all. This is killing us all. The other day, World Wildlife Fund, and they're not just protecting pandas. They came to me and asking me, you know, your country, Thailand, together with Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, are delta countries. And do you know that all of your countries are sinking? Are sinking as a result of, number one, climate change, but more significantly as a result of your construction boom. When you build more, you are submerging your own land more and more. So you are sinking at a rate, an unnatural rate. Together with climate change, you will all be submerged. Cities like Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh, Hanoi, Phnom Penh will all be submerged in the next 2 decades. And this is, why one of the reasons why your president has announced the relocation of your capital. But I want to highlight that we, in ASEAN, we are a major lung of the earth. We provide oxygen to this earth, and it is being quantifiable. It is being quantified at the moment because of what's happening in Brazil. Brazil is another. If you take notice of the anatomy, you have 2 lungs, right? 2 sides. One side is in Southeast Asia, the other side is in South America. Of course, Africa is another one. But one of our lungs is being burned. That's what's happening when your lung is burning, when you smoke a cigarette. You are choking. You are choking yourself. So, and the president of Brazil the other day, when countries from the European Union offering him help, what did he say? It's reminiscent of what Hitler said in 1945. He said, "It's my country. You can't meddle. We have our own way. It's our forest." Is it really now? Is it really now? And our lungs that are here, forests that are ours, are they really ours? In 1990, when the Rio Declaration, you all know about Rio, right? Yeah. In Rio, one of the basic principles that is inherited until now is the principle of intergenerational equity. Intergenerational equity. It means that we are here on this earth for a short period of time. We should not create impact more than our existence. Because what? Because the next generation also has the right to use the resources that are here. That's the intergenerational equity. So it led to a number of principles in our constitution, in your own constitution. The polluter pays principle, in order to protect the environment as long as we can, so that the next generation can equally enjoy these resources, right? That's the principle from Rio that we have inherited. And what have we done? Nowadays we call this footprint. If you measure your footprint, your consumption of the resources of this world, and this page is from footprintnetwork.org. They are saying statistically that we are consuming at the rate of 1.7 Earth. Before us, the Earth has the resilience to renew its own resources. But now we are depleting the resources to the extent that the Earth cannot regenerate the resources for us to use more and more. So at this rate, if we don't stop, if we don't adapt, if we don't mitigate, we are using 1.7 Earth. Do we have the second Earth to use? We don't. We only have 1 Earth. So this is perhaps the biggest issue facing us right now. What are we doing on this issue? Okay? This is just the background, by the way. And I'm going right to the human rights mechanisms now. If you think about human rights mechanisms, I put plural. I put them in plural because this is a forest. In a forest, you have many trees. The AICHR is one of the trees, not the only one tree. Okay? So you cannot think that the AICHR is only one human rights body. It is the so-called forefront of all these, but not a dominant one, maybe, but not the only one. There are many others, including a body to do with the protection and promotion of the rights of women and children, the one on the rights of migrants, and the one on the policy to do with women. So this page, the takeaway message is there are more than just the AICHR. There are many others. And what is the AICHR? I took this memorable photograph to myself because it is the first term for me and second term of Dr. Fendi here. And now we evolve. This is the fourth batch already. So times 4. This is the 12 sort of years of the AICHR, the 11th year of the AICHR now. We just celebrated the 10th year on the 23rd of October. We were formed in Meridien on the 23rd of October 2009. So this is our 10th, entering 11th now. 10 of us appointed by 10 member states. It is created as a consultative body with 14 mandates. The chair of AICHR is a representative country serving the chair of ASEAN. We normally hold 2 regular meetings. We report to the ASEAN foreign ministers. They can also write otherwise. If I ask you, to whom should we report? And you have clean slate, what would you say? To whom should we report? To whom are we accountable?
People.
But people, yes, but who would represent the people? If not the ASEAN foreign ministers, to whom should we report? If you have a clean slate, if you are decision makers today, what would you say? You create a body and you ask them to report to someone on behalf of the ASEAN peoples. Who should that be? And why do you think that it was designated to report to the foreign ministers? Well, the answer is quite easy on that one. It's because the ASEAN foreign ministers negotiated the TOR of AICHR. Yeah. So they put in place the reporting line to themselves. That's quite easy. But if you have a clean slate, to whom should AICHR be reporting?
Head of government.
There's a government, that's a summit, right?
Yes.
That's a summit. That's a summit. That's a body called the summit. Just think about that. I don't have an answer, right or wrong, but this is the nature of things at the moment. This is the BAU, business as usual for the AICHR now. As a result of reporting to the ASEAN foreign ministers, we therefore are attached to the APSC. Before 2015, we were attached to the 4th pillar. By the way, ASEAN has 4 pillars. The corporate, what we call
corporate and
community affairs pillar, led by Pak Hong Tan. Is he still there? No longer there. Okay. So three pillars on the previous slide, and the 4th pillar. We were in 2015. We were served by the community affairs pillar. Yeah. Now we are served by the APSC itself, and we report directly to the ASEAN foreign ministers. I think the name of the body tells many things. It is intergovernmental. If you compare the name of the body alone with other regional human rights mechanisms, it is already telling how much we want this body to work. Because in the organization of the American states, they have the human rights body, which is called, Human Rights Inter-American Human Rights Commission. In the European, in the Council of Europe setting, you have the Human Rights Council serving. In the UN, you have Human Rights Council. We are not called Human Rights Council. We are called Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, meaning we function as representatives of government. So we are not by design, you have to understand this. We are not by design to be independent. And the word independent is not there in our TOR. Many people have advocated for the independence of AICHR. I said, you need to change the name first. Because if you read the TOR carefully, there is no term, independence. There is one term called impartiality. whatever that means. But impartiality is not the same with independence. So be mindful of that. That it is inherent in the name that we are intergovernmental for some reason. So when you are advocating for, AICHR must be independent, think about the name. The name is so important. I'll jump to this one. In our terms of reference, you can read on your own, but I want to bring out some salient points. Read 1.4. We are here to promote human rights within the regional context, bearing in mind national and regional particularities and mutual respect for different historical cultures. And we have to balance between rights and responsibilities. 1.6, to uphold. We are to uphold. Uphold means to observe, to uphold. International human rights standards as prescribed by the AICHR Vietnam Declaration and international human rights instruments to which ASEAN member states are parties. Remember this one, I will remind you nonetheless, when it comes to standards, because it's so critical. At one point in time, I faced an argument that I think would jeopardize the AICHR because of this clause. We are a consultative body, by the way. Consultative in itself. Some people say, oh, the term there, you notice in 4.1, promotion and protection. Promotion and protection. There is no question about promotion, but protection is problematic. What does it mean, protect? To protect. You remember the duty of state to protect? Number one, you cannot violate the rights. Number two, whenever there is a violation, you must provide redress. How you provide redress? There are three methods. Number one, you receive communication. Right? Someone must tell you that there is violation happening. Number two, you must investigate whether there is truly a violation. And number three, you need to provide grievance mechanism. Tell the person to step away from the violation or to provide remedy. And this is what protection means. But how can we protect when we are a consultative body? Within the term consultative body, consultative means to provide consultation, to advise, right? So, to me, I think that the term is a contradiction in terms when you are advocating for full protection. You still have two terms that stand in conflict with the intention of protection. Number one is intergovernmental and the lack of independence. Number two is this term, consultative body. So unless and until we call a spade, like a Singaporean diplomat said that you need to call a cow a cow. So you need to recognize that this is a cow and this is not a camel. So it is what it is designed for. Number one, intergovernmental. Number two, consultative. We are not designed to be independent. We are not designed to be protecting. This is my argument. But it's a big but. The work that the AICHR has carried out tell many things, and I will elaborate more. I will skip others. You can do that on your own. Interesting point. Who can be an AICHR representative? Who can be an AICHR representative? And this one tells the story. Now, 5.3. When appointing their representatives to the AICHR, member states shall give the due consideration to number one, gender equality. Number two, integrity. Number three, competence. No independence mentioned. Bearing in mind. And should consult with their respective internal process with appropriate stakeholders in the appointment of their representatives to the AICHR. Meaning that you can handpick someone. I can point to Ibu Tuti and say, Tuti, be the AICHR rep. I can do that. Or I can say that citizens of Indonesia, we are now recruiting an AICHR representative. If you think you are qualified, please apply. I can do that as well. And this is what Indonesia has laudably done. Yeah? And Thailand has done that as well. We are probably the only two countries at the moment plus Malaysia. They just started, plus Malaysia. The Philippines, interestingly, has appointed, and I'm amazed by this, an interim representative, which is not existing in the TOR. They have not appointed the real representative. They call the person occupying, carrying out the post as interim, meaning awaiting someone else. I don't know the arrangement of the Duterte government, but this is what they have done. Okay? We have a term of 3 years. I say and this is interesting because I'm one of those, maybe the only one at that time. In 2015, I said to the AICHR, we need to amend this TOR because at that time we were vacating our office, 8 of us. And theoretically, if we abide by this TOR, it can result in 10 of us vacating at the same time. And that's possible, right? Because 3 years, you're all gone. Yeah. It's possible. And it happened in 2015, at the end of 2015, for the second batch, for the batch for 2016. Only 2 left. Myself and my Laotian colleague. Only 2. And think about the institutional memory that's gone. So the debate has to be started anew. Yeah? So the staggered term was put as one measure in our recommendation. You see that? Responsibility. Each representative, in discharge of his or her own duties, shall act impartially, not independently. It tells many stories how the TOR was crafted, and they spent a few months, a year rather, negotiating this TOR. So each word was chosen carefully. So it has meaning. The absence of some word also has meaning. The absence of the word independence has story to tell. And decision-making shall be based on consultation and consensus. Pak Effendi told you before coffee break that consensus is one of the stumbling blocks. I would like to illustrate that how consensus works. If I say, should we buy an Apple phone or a Samsung? Think about this, huh? The motion is, should we buy an Apple phone or a Samsung phone?
Apple.
Then, if I say, first motion, Apple, and the majority says, yeah, Apple, and one of you on that table says, no, I don't like Apple. Consensus dictates that we cannot agree on Apple. We cannot agree. Only one voice. This is what Pak Effendi related to you. What I want to impress upon you is, before I even put the motion to you, it requires consensus as well. For example, before we enter this room, and I will say to Ambassador Kenyon, Ambassador, I would like us to address whether we should buy a new phone or not. And he said, oh wait, I cannot decide that. I need to ask you whether we are going to discuss about the new phone. It's the difference, right? If this question is not agreed upon, it's the end of the story. So when it comes to the Rakhine crisis in 2013, we debated among ourselves. We said we should be debating about the Rakhine crisis. And some of us who said, I disagree. So the motion was not put on the table in the first place. Not least, you can't mention the end of the waterfall. The upstream was cut already, so the water did not reach your household. Consensus applies every stage of decision making. And people tend to forget about that. People tend to think about the end of the story. No, sometimes important matters were dropped simply because they don't receive consensus. And how do we arrive at consensus? We negotiate face to face, we negotiate during coffee break, we threaten each other. If you disagree on this, I will disagree on what you are trying to do. You know, if you sit on the table, it's human being, you know. If I don't like this kind of phone, and I would go to another, buy another phone, and you tend to disappear. We say, I would choose another laptop that you don't like. So, quid pro quo, whatever, that happens as well on the negotiation table. I just want to impress upon you that consensus applies all the way at every stage of decision-making process of the AICHR, and I think it applies equally to all decision-making process of ASEAN as well. Yeah. The term overarching has created a lot of tension because, as I said, we are operating in a forest. We are not the only tree. Previously, the AICHR thought that it was the only tree. It dominates everyone to the extent that we had a sort of a rough tension, conflict with other sectoral bodies. And they don't care about us, by the way. They say, oh, you do what human rights, I do this and that. And then I don't classify my portfolio as human rights, so you can't touch my portfolio. Whereas we would say that, oh, everything pertains to human rights, so I have the right to operate this one. And therein lies the conflict between different silos. Yeah? This is outdated already, but I intentionally leave this page unchanged because it was where I was there. And now it's highly dynamic. So the new batch that has operated since early this year, they have decided their own program. This is what we did. But I just want to move on before I go back to some of the works, and we should have some time to discuss. When it comes to human rights standards, the mother of all standards, of course, is the AICHR. It has given rise to these different standards to do with the political, civil and political rights and economic, social and cultural rights in 1966, then move on to racial discrimination, to rights of persons with disabilities. What is missing? What is missing? You have political rights, economic rights, women's rights, children's rights, rights of persons with disabilities, rights of migrants, rights of persons against being forcibly disappeared. What's the other one? Torture. What's missing? What's missing? What do you think should be there? I give you a quiz too. Right now, there has been a debate going on at the international level whether we should create two instruments. One pertains to the rights of the elderly. We are aging. We are all aging. The other is the binding convention on business and human rights, mainly on multinational enterprises. And this is a huge debate. But I'd like to point out this one. Among the existing eight conventions, right? 8 conventions on 8 matters. And if you look at the rate of ratification on this page, you will see that, and you can see for yourself where your country stands. I put a circle on the Migrant Workers Convention, together with the enforced disappearance. It's the least popular. If you look at the least of the least, the enforced disappearance, it received only one ratification by Cambodia, with 3 signers, including Indonesia, but you haven't ratified. Thailand has signed but not ratified. I have a number of questions that we should address. Number one, why enforced disappearance and migrant workers receive so few ratifications? By virtue of it being a rather new convention, the migrant workers was adopted in 2006. argument is, well, it's the same year that the CRPD was adopted as well. The CRPD is Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, to which all ASEAN member states now have ratified. So the answer must be more nuanced than it being new. And I think the answer lies in the fact that we cannot, each of us have, for Thailand at least, Thailand as the country in between. You know, in labor, in labor, you have the sending country, the receiving country, and the country in between. Thailand is one in between. And I think that the Thai government has a standard response that we are not ready to implement fully this particular convention. Of course, other member states would have different answers. Another thing I like to point out, that only 3 of these, among these 8, are ratified by all ASEAN member states. One on women, another on children, the other on persons with disabilities. And persons with disabilities is the last of these 3. It's the last of these 3. If you go back to the language of ASEAN, of the AICHR, you remember that we are to uphold international standards and the conventions on human rights to which ASEAN member states are parties. Remember? What does that mean? Does it mean that AICHR and ASEAN can only address matters pertaining to these 3 because all of us are parties? Or any of these, given that some of us are parties? Do you know the difference?
Yeah.
This table, do you know the difference? There is a difference.
Yes.
The debate is this. If I want to do a project on torture, someone would point to me and say, how could you do torture? Because look at cat. Yeah? Look at cat, which is cat. Let me see cat. Cat there, below CEDAW, it received 60%, meaning 4 have not ratified, right? 4 have not ratified. It's being ratified by 6 and signed by Brunei, but not ratified. So if I want to do cat, and someone would point to me and say, how could you do cat? Why? Because not all member states have ratified cat. It's like a catch-22. You need all of us to ratify first before you do something about that. And remember from the start that human rights are interrelated, interdependent, and indivisible. So I was amazed that this argument was raised in my face when I was starting the work on persons with disabilities in 2015. At that time, 9 of us ratified the CRPD. Only 1 left. And among us 10, someone pointed to me, how could you do this program on persons with disabilities? I said, why not? And that person said, because one of us has not ratified the CRPD. And the TOR said, we are to uphold only the conventions that all of us are party to. And I said, sorry, but the word all is not there. Meaning it does not necessitate that we have to wait until all of us ratify so that we can work on that particular issue. So I congratulate the likes of Profendi, who has worked on the issue of torture. And he faced that kind of argument. When someone would say, look, CAT, only 6 ratified, the other 4 have not ratified. Wait until the other 4 ratify before you come back to us. I totally disagree. And you need to be mindful of the argument that will surface when you work on sensitive issues like enforced disappearance. Because admit it, no country, including my own, will like this issue to be addressed. Yeah. Ever. Yeah. You know, in some countries it's more sensitive, perhaps Indonesia. In Thailand it's still sensitive to address the disappearance of some child. Yeah? So remember this when we talk about this. So before we move to next page, number 1, we have only 3 commonalities. Women, children, persons with disabilities. Number 2, it is not necessary for us to wait until all these 8 or 9 have been ratified before we embark on some project pertaining to that particular treaty, because they are all interconnected. Think about children. And this is just alarming. When you look at the CRC, Convention of Children's Rights, it covers many things. Political rights, the rights of the child against being disappeared is there. So you can simply work on that, you know. So be mindful of the interrelatedness of all rights. You can use the three, women, children, person with disability, as the focal point for other issues as well, like political rights, economic rights, the rights against being disappeared, the rights against being tortured. And I do that as well. I do that as well. When I find a stumbling block, I said, okay, fine. But admit it, if I work on children, every other right is there. So it's a mute, but it's just being brought to frustration sometimes. This one is emerging. I like to point out this one. This is from 2011. The United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. What we discussed previously has to do with states, right? States have duty to protect, and what? Respect, protect, and fulfill, right? But when it comes to business and human rights, you see the state, the duty of state to protect is there, the duty of businesses to respect is there, and the duty to provide remedy to victims is there. The role of businesses on human rights has been recognized since the World War. Think about companies helping the Nazi regime in funding their regime has been recognized. I won't name the names, but if you look at the Vichy government, you know, the French government during Nazi occupation of France, some companies have been named to help Hitler to perpetuate his program in France. And some of those are French companies. So companies have been recognized as being human rights perpetrators themselves. So this standard emerged to recognize that, and also to put in place more stringent measures on how businesses can mitigate and prevent human rights violations through human rights due diligence, human rights supply chain management, and disclosure. Okay? This page, maybe 1 minute. I'll end soon. But I'd like to point out, do you see clearly on this page? I think I should, this is endear to me, so I need to come here. You have a forest of standards. You have a forest of standards when it comes to business and human rights. The UNGPs are not the only standards in this field. They are here. So they talk about business and human rights. You also have corporate social responsibility here. But what we address under UNGPs are duty, responsibility. You know it, right? CSR is about charity. Where it overlaps, this part is duty. This part is charity. We call this part in-process CSR. Yeah? In-process CSR. How you mitigate your impact on your footprint to this earth. If you are a cement company, how you mitigate the release of heat into the environment, that's in-process. For charity aids, you can do whatever you please, like constructing new schools, helping others. You need to differentiate. And there are many others. MNE Declaration is the Multinational Enterprise Declaration of the ILO. It addresses the rights of workers. ESG is environment, social, and governance. Nowadays, institutional investors are caring for the environment, social, and governance. They will not invest in companies that engage in environmental degradation. You remember at one point 2 years ago now, a dam broke down in Laos. You remember? Do you remember? Do you know about this? A spillway of a dam in Laos broke down. It dislocated 6,000 households. They were submerged and they had to move elsewhere. I was asked, because the the construction companies is a consortium of 3 countries: Thailand, IGAT of Thailand, Laos, and Korea. A reporter came to me and asked not about the consortium, how the consortium as business and human rights provided remedy. They did not ask about that. They asked about the role of the banks that provide the loan to the consortium. What about the role of the banks that provide the loan to consortium? And what about the role of the institutional investors that invest in those banks and invest in the consortium? Have they called the consortium to account? It's a very good question. And I would like you to start asking questions about that, along that line. The way that businesses are responsible in their supply chain. And the supply chain of business is not just about the business themselves, but also their investors. Yeah? So we have plenty of standards. They overlap, but somehow they complement one another. If you cannot use this one, you can always use the other one. You have OECD due diligence guideline as well. I won't go into detail, but I just want to impress upon you how important it is that you recognize complementarity of these standards. Toward the end of this presentation, in ASEAN at the moment, we only have 3. I would say only 1, because David asked me to say about this. I would say about it briefly. Human trafficking is to my mind, only human rights relevant standard, legally binding, the active, launched in 2015. At the moment, it has been ratified by not all ASEAN member states. Search who has not ratified. It's a funny story when all the 10 of us adopted it in 2015. And they spent nearly 4 years now, and not all of them have not ratified. At the moment, 8, I think 9. Only 1 country has not ratified. We have AICHR in 2005 and terrorism. But if you look at the provisions, they didn't mention about human rights, so I would not classify them as being pertaining to human rights. But they certainly pertain to human rights substantively. Yeah? We also have soft law, so-called, many soft laws. And this is just a list, not exhaustive list. This is what I'm very proud of, the Enabling Master Plan on persons with disabilities. Spending years and years doing this, and 2 years on the task force drafting this one. And this one was just launched, thematic study on legal aid, with the help of our friend over there. Last but not least, it's about sustainable development goals. It is recognized that in ASEAN vision, community vision, that our leaders underline complementarity of the sustainable development goals to uplift the standards of living of our people. What I want to say to you is this. When you already know that it has 17 goals, you should equip yourself with some details at least. Outside of this, when you finish this course, and the ambassador gave you the certificate, I hope you can say to others that you attended this course. And what it has given you is the maybe, enhanced understanding of the SDGs. I like to tell you that you can't just look at the headlines. You need to look at the detail because they differ, but they complement one another in a very nice way. And what I want to say is one of my favorites is goal 16, just, peaceful, and inclusive societies. When you read the headlines, think what it entails. It may be different from what you thought. And this is what it entails. Reduce all forms of violence and related death rates everywhere. And abuse, exploitation, trafficking, all forms of violence against torture of children. So, global goals relate to ASEAN in more ways than one. And goals are interrelated as well. I will skip these and talk about this one. This can be searched right now on Google. You should search it. OECD has produced a document called Policy Coherence for Sustainable Development, released second edition this year. You know, we have different silos, and that's horizontal integration, coherence. You need coherence among different ministries, and you have to have coherence among different agencies of that ministry. So that's called vertical coherence. Study it for yourself. And this is just an example that on equal rights and equal access, they have put a map, saying that equal rights relate to many SDGs. Relate to many SDGs. Last is what's next. What's next for ASEAN? We, as we know, we are founded on 3 pillars. Perhaps the most well-known is the ASEAN Economic Community. They are preoccupied with a deliverable, the negotiation of the largest trade bloc in the world, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, combining 16 countries, 10 of ASEAN, and 6 bilateral trade partners, China, India, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and Korea. Certainly, if we say that we have already created impact by integrating among 10, what would impact be if we have 16? If goods and services can flow more freely, certainly people will flow more freely, right? One way or another, undocumented or documented. They would flow. They would go to find jobs and opportunities somewhere among this block. What is the safety net for ASEAN? Have we started talking about this? End of my presentation. Leave you with this thought. So there are a number of emerging issues that we need to address. We have climate change. We have the rise of the elderly, the so-called silver economy. We have ASEAN economic integration and ASEAN, and also protectionism. And this morning, Donald Trump announced that he will forego, he will terminate the zero tariff for many of Thai products because Thailand has not provided protection for labor that he is satisfied with. So, but he gave that right to Ukraine. New emerging standard, the SDGs, treaty bodies, UPR, you discussed about that already. New actors, businesses, M&E, CSO. We should have some new tools as well to address this issue. National or regional action plan on business and human rights. And when it comes to environmental impact, we should discuss whether or not we should go along the line of the regional environmental impact assessment. That is all I have to say. We have 35 minutes for questions, comments, reflection.